Alabama Governor Kay Ivey said in a statement today she also wants to protect IVF access. She's just one of many Republicans now trying to distance themselves from this ruling. All of it a sign the GOP is struggling to formulate a winning message on reproductive rights since the overturning of Roe v. Wade 2 years ago. Joining us now, we have former communications director for the DNC, Karen Finney, and also here tonight with us, we have Republican strategist Rina Shah. And I wonder, Rina, what you think the effect is of Trump and other Republicans pretty quickly trying to shift in favor of IVF, if it works for them.
Well, it's the right move because the backlash was severe right after this ruling came out. It bears repeating, this court ruling is the first ruling of its kind where it determines what is life so close to conception. That really shakes the consciousness of the younger American woman that 2 years after the overturn of Roe never thought we'd really see this day. But those of us who are in the political sphere know that when you give an inch, they'll take a mile. And that is what the politicians in Alabama determined. I think their Supreme Court didn't do this by any sort of interpretation of laws on the books. They wanted to gauge public opinion or what they think is public opinion. But the numbers are stark, Brianna. They're really stark. Across the United States, the CDC says there were 92,000 live births in credit to IVF. Now, in Alabama alone, there were 966 embryo transfers in the year 2021, of which 407 live birth deliveries resulted. That's 50%. That's families that would never have the beautiful thing that is life if there weren't IVF. So reproductive assistive technologies are massive, and the GOP knows that. So no surprise that the former president would come out and say, I'm fine with it, I'm not going to take it away, because he knows those are votes that are against him if he didn't say what he said.
What do you think?
Yeah, great effort.
Well,
but here's the problem. I mean, first of all, voters trust Democrats on this issue more than Republicans. And I think it's going to be a problem for Donald Trump, given that the other thing that happened last week is that he came out and said, or they didn't say it publicly, but he supports a 15-week abortion ban. And the challenge, and part of where I think Republicans, again, when the Dobbs decision happened, it opened up a whole Pandora's box of issues. How are you as a candidate going to say, I believe a woman and her husband or her partnership for IVF, they can make that decision, but she can't decide for herself whether or not to terminate a pregnancy. And think about the stories we've seen in places like Texas where a woman wanted to have an abortion because it would preserve her ability to have more children. And they said no, and they threatened her. So I think this, I think they were not prepared for what this was gonna mean. And don't forget also during the election, there are gonna be other races. There are, not Secretary of State races, but there are down ballot races that will be impacted by this issue. And I expect candidates are going to be asked, where do you stand on this issue? And just like we saw in Virginia in the midterms, not everybody's going to have the right answer. So this is going to continue to be an issue for Republicans.
You're hearing in the state, the legislature is planning to deal with this. Democrats and Republicans, they are planning to introduce legislation that will protect IVF. We still need to wait and see what they come up with to see what the bills look like. But I wonder, Karen, how does it look to voters if there is a carve out for women who have IVF, which by the way means they are significantly more likely to be financially well off. They're significantly more likely to be white, but then there isn't one for women who don't have the means to leave Alabama for abortion, even if they're pregnant in the case of rape or incest.
That's right. And what that says to women, again, for candidates, when you ask, okay, so where do you stand on these issues, that sets up a hypocrisy that as a woman, as someone who supports women, they'll say, you know what, let's just go back to what the reproductive rights movement has been saying, which is a woman and her family should be making these decisions, full stop, period. Again, because we know that every woman has a different health situation. And so do we really want our legislators making these decisions?
What do you think, Rina?
That's been the hard part for me. Seeing this ruling come down, I thought it was a simple thing to say, this is about people who are unelected bureaucrats getting in that exam room between a woman and her doctor. Because I was on the Hill when the Affordable Care Act passed as a young staffer. And I remember those were the talking points that we had as Republicans, that we do not want these people in that exam room. It is between a woman and her doctor. And so conventional wisdom would lead you to believe that most conservatives will have a problem with this ruling because it is not pro-life in nature. It is about government encroaching on the lives of these women. And essentially, you apply that logic that I just talked about, and you get a whole generation of women pushing back on this Republican Party and saying, stay out of my bedroom.
Because, I mean, this is the thing. The people's values and attitudes have changed over the last 15 years. We're not here having this conversation about reproductive freedom by accident. We saw this in the movement 15 years ago, that people in the middle were uncomfortable with the idea of government deciding. And now that is coming to fruition, and now our politics are having to deal with that.
We're going to see how voters respond to this, no doubt. Rina, Karen, thank you so much to both of you.